From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
It's been a 6-year court battle over DACA recipients and driver's licenses. Tonight, word from the U.S. Supreme Court is letting dreamers breathe easier.
The opioid crisis is hitting Arizona's Indian country harder than many other communities. That's why the U.S. Secretary of Interior is in the Valley today.
Plus, the latest on the federal investigation after a self-driving Uber SUV killed a pedestrian in Tempe.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Chancellor Johnson.
And I'm Fortessa Latifi. Thank you for joining us. Uber has suspended its self-driving cars across the valley and in several other cities after a pedestrian was hit in Tempe overnight and later died of her injuries. It's believed to be the first fatality in the nation involving a fully autonomous car. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Gutierrez is tracking the details.
The National Transportation Board Safety Board is now tracking what happened last night. Tempe police say the SUV struck 49-year-old Elaine Herzberg. She was not at the crosswalk when this accident happened. She was on Mill Avenue south of Curry. There was a driver behind the wheel, but he was acting as a safeguard as the car was in self-driving mode. Uber said it's fully cooperating with investigators in Tempe. The company tweeting out a statement, "Our hearts go out to the victim's family." For self-driving cars, dealing with pedestrians and bicyclists is a challenging task. The self-driving industry has found quicker success with highway driving, which is a less complicated environment. Uber has previously grounded its vehicles while investigating a crash. In 2017, Uber briefly pulled its vehicles from roads after an Uber self-driving vehicle in Tempe landed on its side. Arizona is a hotbed of self-driving car development. Earlier this month, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey updated an executive order to allow self-driving cars to drive on state roads without a test driver behind the wheel. We reached out to Governor Doug Ducey's office for comment on the incident, in which they stated they're aware of the accident and their prayers are with the victim. They also stated, "Our office is in communication with law enforcement. Public safety is our top priority, and the governor's latest executive order provides enhanced enforcement measures and clarity on responsibility in these actions." Now, this isn't the first time a futuristic car is involved in a fatal car accident. In 2016, a man was driving a Tesla, and the Tesla was put on autopilot. Now, the feature in this Tesla vehicle doesn't mean it's self-driving completely. The driver still has to drive the car. In Phoenix, Nicole Gutierrez, Cronkite News.
Arizona Governor Doug Ducey released his Safe Arizona Schools plan this afternoon. Ducey took action after students came to the Capitol on Wednesday, demanding action on the 1-month anniversary of the Parkland school shooting. Ducey's plan includes investigating in mental and behavioral health resources at schools, creating a central tip line for reporting school safety concerns, eliminating background check gaps, and increasing school resource officers and law enforcement resources for schools.
Today, the Supreme Court effectively denied the state of Arizona's request to stop issuing driver's licenses to Dreamers after it refused to hear a case that pitted the governor's office against the Arizona Dream Act Coalition, or ADAC. Reporter Tim Johns talked to immigrant rights activists about the impact of this decision.
Like many Dreamers across Arizona today, Vianney Perez is breathing a sigh of relief. The United States Supreme Court's decision this morning means that she'll be able to keep her driver's license.
This is a basic thing that's essential to doing anything in the state. Just having an ID on you, you know?
Perez says that although having a driver's license may not seem like a big deal to most people, for her and other DACA recipients, it's of the utmost importance.
I don't have to worry about being pulled over and worrying about, dang, you know, I don't have ID on me.
The case dates back to 2012 after DACA was announced by the Obama administration. Then Arizona Governor Jan Brewer said that the state could deny licenses to Dreamers, with the process ultimately reaching the highest court in the U.S. Karina Ruiz, executive director of the Arizona Dream Act Coalition, says that although the fight has been tough at times, her organization never doubted that the courts would ultimately make this decision.
We always knew that we were on the right side of history, that there's no harm caused by immigrant youth driving legally in Arizona.
And as for Perez, despite today's victory, she says it's important to remember the bigger picture.
There's a phase to these numbers and to DACA. It's not just an acronym. It's so frustrating to see your community being attacked.
In Phoenix, Tim Johns, Cronkite News.
Mark Brnovich's office released a statement saying he was disappointed in today's decision because he believes the court sidestepped the issue of whether DACA was legal in the first place as an executive order under President Obama. The Supreme Court has also refused to hear a case challenging Arizona's death penalty law. Reporter Ariana Bustos is tracking the latest from our Washington bureau.
The Supreme Court refused to hear a case today, which argued that the death penalty requirements for Arizona are too broad.
Abel Hidalgo was sentenced to death after he pleaded guilty to two 2001 gang-related contract killings in Phoenix. On appeal, Hidalgo argued that Arizona has so many factors that allow for the death penalty, virtually anyone convicted of first-degree murder can face execution. The Arizona Supreme Court disagreed, and the United States Supreme Court today refused to review the state court's ruling. Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Robert Dunham, executive director of the Death Penalty Information Center, says today's decision is not the end of the line for the issue.
This only means that the United States Supreme Court isn't going to review this case at this stage of the proceedings. It doesn't mean that the issue's been resolved against them.
Dunham noted that 4 justices who disagreed with the Arizona Supreme Court ruling, but said they needed more evidence to consider Arizona's statute. Dunham said despite the fact the court has decided not to review this case, he said the questions it raises are still not resolved.
When the United States Supreme Court decides not to review a case, it doesn't mean it's rejecting the claims that were presented. So this issue is still in Mr. Hidalgo's case, and it's still present in the cases of all the other Arizona death row prisoners who are challenging the constitutionality of the statute.
There are currently 116 inmates on Arizona's death row. Reporting from the Supreme Court, Ariana Bustos, Cronkite News.
Hidalgo was not the only Arizona death row challenge turned away by the justices today. The Supreme Court also declined to hear an appeal from Scott Claiborne. He's been on death row since 1983 for the sexual assault and murder of a University of Arizona student.
President Donald Trump is taking on the opioid epidemic by launching a new website, crisisnextdoor.gov, to warn against the dangers of prescription painkillers. It comes as the president says the nation must get tough with drug dealers, which includes utilizing the death penalty.
Failure is not an option. Addiction is not our future. We will liberate our country from this crisis. Never been like this. Hundreds of years, never been like this. And we will raise a drug-free generation of American children.
U.S. Secretary of the Interior Ryan Zinke met with the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community this afternoon to discuss the impact of the national opioid epidemic in tribal areas.
Native Americans in particular have seen a staggering increase in overdose deaths, higher than any other group in America. So it's time to not talk, it's time to do.
Native Americans living in rural areas have been harder hit by the opioid crisis than any group in the nation. A report by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said rural areas as a whole saw a 325% increase in overdose deaths between 1999 and 2015. But the death rate for Native Americans living in rural areas jumped 519% over the same period. Experts say the problem is compounded by a lack of facilities in tribal areas and a shortage of federal funding for treatment and prevention programs. This past weekend, Secretary Zinke spent some time at the Mexican border to discuss border security. Cronkite News reporter Lillian Donahue traveled to the southern Pima County for his visit.
Clear. Riding in on a horse with full cowboy gear on, Secretary of the Interior Ryan Zinke was clear and cut to the chase during his weekend visit to the Arizona-Mexico border.
You know, clearly we're going to build a wall. Clearly the design yet is not finished.
Zinke spent time along Arizona's 370-mile-long southern border for the first time, discussing Trump's plan to build a controversial wall and the administration's plan for increased security. He also took the opportunity to speak with local environmentalists, native groups, and Border Patrol agents.
There's a lot of bad people that come across with weapons and drugs and things. and we have to make sure we secure the border, and it's important that we all work together to do it.
The U.S. Department of Interior controls about 40% of the 2,000-mile-long border between the U.S. and Mexico.
In fact, 80% of the Tucson sector is controlled by DOI public land, according to the Border Patrol, just like where I'm standing right now on the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge.
Some environmentalists say building a border wall will negatively affect the wildlife in the area, but Border Patrol agents say the existing fence has actually helped by deterring people from crossing through the refuge.
Because of the establishment of the pedestrian barrier, we've actually been able to help defragment the Buenos Aires.
But not everyone is convinced. Those at the Center for Biological Diversity call the wall a disaster for wildlife.
We have an amazing array of plants and animals that live in the border region. The border wall blocks movement for many species along the border.
The center was the first to file suit against the Trump administration's border wall, but that has not stopped the production of prototypes and further planning. Secretary Zinke has recently pushed to conserve wildlife corridors along public land. Although he says Trump's proposed wall will keep more Americans safe, he agrees it's not perfect.
It doesn't fix everything, but it fixes certainly a class of problems.
In Sasabe, Lillian Donahue, Cronkite News.
The secretary said he plans to speak with President Trump about the concerns he heard along the border during their next cabinet meeting on Wednesday.
Parents and their children gathered at the Arizona Capitol lawn this afternoon for an event designed to promote school choice by Arizona Parents for Education. As part of a celebration of science in schools, parents and lawmakers got to get up close with some reptiles. But the real message was about honoring school choice, whether that's public, charter, or homeschool. Republican Senator Sylvia Allen says Arizona is third in the nation for growth in K through 12, and says about 50% of their budget goes towards funding education.
When you hear these ads out there about Arizona not fully funding education, every year we fully fund it. Every penny we can generate from our general fund, we give to education.
Parents shared a series of other concerns with lawmakers today, including opportunities for career and technical education programs at schools and anti-bullying measures.
Could where you live determine the length of your life? Coming up on Cronkite News, we'll take you to the zip code where residents have the longest life expectancy in the valley. Plus, doubling up on food assistance means healthier options for thousands of Arizonans.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Double up with more fresh produce at participating markets across Arizona. Recipients of Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, can get a bigger bang for their buck. Reporter Monty Stevens explains how the Double Up Arizona program works.
Welcome to the market.
I came to the farmer's market to get some local produce, some organic, local stuff.
With an Arizona Quest card, SNAP recipients can buy fresh fruits and vegetables at participating farmers markets.
Many people don't buy organic because they feel it's too expensive.
Eligible SNAP benefit foods include fruits, vegetables, and eggs, and it has to be Arizona grown.
They would just shop in the same way, and when they're ending their transaction with us at our central point of sale at the information booth, we're able to double what they've spent.
These are the tokens that recipients get, and they get things like fresh radishes, like this, only $2.
We match them, and it's twice the amount of food.
We're able to double up to $20 a day.
Use the tokens now or save them for later.
Families come out every week because they're able to not only be a part of this community and shop at the farmers market for local products, but they're also able to maximize their dollars.
I had no idea this was going on. I'm pretty sure that many people don't, and some even kind of shy away from trying to get food assistance because of the, long trial and paperwork.
Blue Sky Organic Farms is one of the approved vendors.
I just love seeing a big family of 5 come in, and they just start raving about the strawberries or about the carrots, and they start giving the kids carrots.
As a mother, Gutierrez says the program is worth it, especially if you have kids.
It's food and it's life. It's, giving you more days of healthy living.
In Phoenix, Imani Stevens, Cronkite News.
More than 20 farmers markets in Arizona participate in the Double Up Food Bucks program.
And it's not just food. Your environment can have long-term effects on your health. Cronkite News reporter Mari Nelson shows us how 2 zip codes just a 15-minute drive away from each other in the valley have a 14-year difference in life expectancy.
Well, the great thing about this place is it has miles and miles of trails. You can go any direction.
John Fixter is a cyclist living in North Scottsdale in the 85258 zip code. It has the highest life expectancy in the valley at 85 years old.
I usually exercise about between 14 and 15 miles a day.
Lots of areas and parks to get out and about in the North Scottsdale area help it rank highly for its health opportunities, increasing the average life expectancy here.
But that's not the only reason. This Health Opportunity Index is a map created by the Arizona Partnership for Healthy Communities and their director, Serena Unrein. It shows that where you live has a big impact on your health. The darker areas show the zip codes with the highest need for health opportunities.
Health is really dependent on your poverty level, on your access to education, on the walkability of your neighborhood. If you live in a lower income zip code, unfortunately, your chances of living a long, healthy life are not as good as if you live in a higher income zip code.
Zip code 85004 in South Phoenix has a life expectancy of only 71. John Ford from the Vitalist Health Foundation says that there are multiple underlying reasons for this.
The reason health outcomes aren't so great there comes from a variety of issues like economic opportunity, but also air quality, the fact that they're close to so much industrial.
A resident that lives in the zip code agrees that the air quality is part of the issue.
I live on the 6th floor, and you can just look around, and a lot of days it's super hazy. I don't know if that's from the cars or from the buses or whatnot, but that is certainly an issue.
A difference between these 2 communities is the amount of natural environment that provides a space for health. Fixter says he rides a lot more ever since he moved here due to the beauty of his surroundings.
It gives you more motivation to get out and do something.
In Scottsdale, Mari Nelson, Cronkite News.
The Health Opportunity Index is in the process of being updated to include more factors and will be used to improve city layouts to form a healthier community who will live longer.
Conservationists are coming together to save an historic Arizona species.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how their efforts to save the bighorn sheep are bringing balance back to the ecosystem.
And tomorrow is the first day of spring, and with that comes warmer temperatures. Stay tuned to see just how warm it's going to get here.
This fall.
I'm so excited!
What? From the inspiring to the amazing.
You're in the presence of history.
The compelling.
He said, "Welcome home." It was just a powerful moment.
To the astounding.
I promised myself I wouldn't cry.
And from the breathtaking.
This is real.
A journey to Mars.
To the electrifying.
We're going to change the world.
All this and more. All this fall.
Oh my God!
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
Third Rail with Ozzy. The new weekly show where we tackle the taboo and debate the tough questions with some of the most interesting minds in the game. I'm Carlos Watson. Electrifying Conversation. Friday, only on PBS.
Bighorn sheep have been a part of Arizona's wildlife for hundreds, even thousands of years, but conservationists became alarmed when some herds vanished. As part of our Access Across Arizona initiative, Cronkite News reporter Nicole Randock visits the Waterman Mountains near Marana to discover how groups are working to save the species.
I just couldn't believe how majestic that ram looked. And then I watched him go and watched him run up in the cliffs, and from then on, I was kind of hooked on bighorn sheep.
This species has been an integral part of the southern Arizona ecosystem until the local population ceased to exist in multiple mountain ranges, such as the Catalina Mountains during the late 1990s. But they're hard to find in the wild. These sheep are at the Phoenix Zoo. Experts are puzzled by the disappearance, but some believe urban sprawl, disease, and predators have caused the decline. That's a problem because other species depend on the desert bighorn sheep.
If they disappear, then mountain lions don't have their main food source. Mountain lions are going to look elsewhere. Mountain lion populations may either dwindle because their food source decreases, or they may start coming down more into homes, human areas to look for food.
Hunters and environmentalists are working together to bring balance back to the ecosystem.
Hunting and conservation go hand in hand in creating both a steady stream of money, of investment, and efforts to put wild sheep on the mountain.
Together, the stakeholders have transported sheep to regions with declining populations. The sheep are tracked using GPS to observe movement patterns and mortality rates. And one nonprofit has constructed water catchments to provide fresh water in the arid desert.
This mountain range in and of itself, the population is at an all-time high. And I personally believe a lot of it has to do with these newly refurbished and developed water catchments.
The Arizona Desert Bighorn Sheep Society, which represents sportsmen, has raised more than $3 million for the effort.
As part of his decades-long mission to help conserve the Arizona Desert Bighorn sheep, Joe walks upwards of 10 miles every week to check on the water catchments and also to monitor the animal's population in its natural habitat.
The statewide sheep population has grown by 4,000 since 1957. Near Marana, Nicole Randock, Cronkite News.
A gorgeous weekend is giving way to a wonderful work week of weather.
Holly Bach is tracking our forecast.
And a beautiful day it is right now here in Phoenix. Clear skies, sunny skies, and currently we're sitting at just about 70 degrees. And as we go overnight, we're gonna get into the 60s just around 6 p.m. tonight. And as we head into around 10 p.m. tonight, we are gonna drop into the 50s. But tomorrow is our first day of spring, and with that is gonna come a beautiful 80-degree day for us here in Phoenix. And now, looking at Thursday, our high is 92 degrees. Now that's 2 degrees below our average set back in 94 at 1990. And if we do hit this high of 92 degrees, it is gonna go down as the warmest day so far in 2018. Now looking at the precipitation across Arizona, there is some high cloud coverage coming in from the west coast, just in the northern Arizona region. So if you are up in the high country, you are gonna have some partly cloudy days for the next couple of days. Now, although we are warming up for the next 3 days here in the valley, Friday, we are gonna drop to 76 degrees as our high. We might have a chance of showers as well, 20% chance, but Saturday and Sunday, our temperatures are gonna be just below 80 degrees, so make sure you get outside if you have the chance to do so. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Holly Bach.
Pat Tillman and military appreciation are embedded in the blood of the Arizona State athletics community. New ASU football coach Herm Edwards got an up-close and personal look at one of the mainstays in the U.S. military. Reporter Tyler Paley was with Edwards for his flight of a lifetime.
Here come the gear and the flaps.
That's Arizona State football coach Herm Edwards aboard one of the U.S. Navy FA-18 Hornets, otherwise known as the Blue Angels. The famous fighter jets made their way to Luke Air Force Base in Glendale this weekend for the annual Luke Days.
We go to every show site and we really try to inspire a culture of excellence and service to country and really represent the men and women overseas. And we try to get involved with the community and inspire the youth and our future of this country as well.
It didn't take much to convince Edwards to take part in this exciting event, because for him, it's more meaningful than just a spin in the air.
My father was in the military, 22 years, fought in the Korean War and World War II. I lived on an Army base when I was young in California, so I appreciate the service.
Lieutenant Andre Webb took Edwards up in his number 7 Blue Angel jet. Webb says he's logged about 2,300 hours in the air, while this was Edwards' first time on a fighter plane.
Imagine the first time you ever remember riding a bike and your parents teaching you how to do that, them explaining a lot of things to you that now you just take for granted, and it's very similar to that.
I can feel that a lot. A flight Edwards will never forget, and one that's given him a greater appreciation for the service members overseas.
Freedom is never free, and I think sometimes we don't realize that. I realized that at a young age.
From Luke Air Force Base in Glendale, Tyler Paley, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, Phoenix Police Chief Jerry Williams will join us to talk about recent police-involved shootings. And a new report takes a critical look at the finances of Arizona's charter schools. That's the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next NewsHour. America Addicted. President Trump lays out his plan to combat the opioid crisis. That's Monday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.